Well, first off, thank you guys for being here on this holiday. Appreciate it. Man, I was thinking coming into this morning, year 12, man, I don't know if I'd ever thought I'd be here for 12 years, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm like the old guy now, and I never saw myself as that. But such a blessing by God for me to be the head coach of my alma mater. I can tell you this place means a lot to me, and I thank God for keeping me here when I've had other opportunities to go other places. We're super excited about the season. Last year was not what we wanted, and if you're in our organization, even though we played well at the end, that's not the standard of a regular season that we want to put together. You don't talk about it in the middle of it, but we had some key injuries, but you don't talk about that as a coach because you can't survive. The locker room won't survive, and I am glad that our guys got to fill a championship, winning the conference tournament, and then playing really well at the Coastal Regional. But our guys are hungry and sometimes struggle. When you don't play as well as you want to play, can be a good thing for next year, and we're super excited about that. I always look back at 17, and we didn't make a regional, and then since 2018, we're the fourth winningest college baseball program in the country, so with over a 3.4 team GPA. So super happy that Coach Palumbo, Coach Knight, and some additions to our staff are coaching our players. I do believe we have the best coaching staff in the country, and I'm excited to get going. We got a lot of work to do, but we've been able to scrimmage a little bit because the rules changed. We started practice on January 12th, which in normal years, even dating back to last year, we would be getting into team practice this upcoming weekend, but we've been able to practice as a team since January 12th. So we've been able to get some good work in before the weather has turned or is going to turn. But thank you guys for being here. Open up for questions.
What can you say about the ongoing construction, how you guys are going to have to deal with that, or is it true you guys are going to be in the first base dugout this season?
You always have the scoop. I can't believe that's the first question for everybody, though. So any specific construction questions, you can ask J.J. McLam, but he's probably duck hunting right now, so you might have to call him on that. We're in trailers behind the Rogers Center. The trailers are actually better than probably what I anticipated, and our guys have actually enjoyed it because we're just kind of all together. I mean, the training room is in the coach's trailer, so we see the guys all the time. Sometimes it makes it a little bit difficult to get some work done, and then all the guys have their locker room in a separate trailer, which is connected to ours. So it's been fun. We will be in the first base dugout. It just makes more sense because everything is on the first base side for us, and the bathroom that we use during games on the third base side is going to be offline while the construction is going on.
Coach, last year Alex Boucher didn't have the year that he wanted. He came back to your program. He's even taken on some new roles in the fall. Can you just talk about the character of that young man?
Yeah, I talked to the team about this. I mean, behind the scenes, when you have to make tough decisions as a head coach, I don't think when fans understand the human relationship you have with players. And when I had to call Boo into my hotel room in Clearwater and say, hey, look, buddy, I love you, man, but you're not going to play shortstop this week, and we need you to be a great teammate. And he looked at me in the face and said, Coach, I just want to win. I'll do whatever you need. And then you go to his exit meeting after the season's over, and I said, Boo, if you want to play shortstop, you probably are going to have to go somewhere else. And he said, Coach, I just want to stay here and win. Can I pitch? I said, absolutely. So he's been pitching some. He's gotten better. Coach Knight and Jake Agnos have really helped him with his pitching. He's playing first base some, but you could see him anywhere really on the infield or pitching for us. But I can tell you this, he's one of the best leaders that we've ever had here, and he wants to take ECU baseball to places it's never been before, and that's really cool to see.
Not to ask you about college athletics as a whole right now and how it works, Coach, but how have you utilized the transfer portal to help your specific team and program?
Well, I'm glad you actually asked that question because, number one, I can tell you this, the supporters that we have for ECU baseball specifically, but really for ECU athletics to not be a P4 school, we have some really, really big donors that selflessly give to this place. And for our baseball program, we're funded at a level that we're able to compete nationally. And it's not what any of us signed up for. but we are able to utilize the portal. I can tell you this, we don't go try to outbid people, because if you do that, you will end up like some other programs where I was about to say a different word, but when stuff hits the fan, then they have no buy-in. They have to have some stake in the game. And Coach Knight, Coach Palumbo, Coach Gotro, and our entire staff did a really good job. We have better humans in our locker room than we had last year in totality. That's not a knock against anybody that was here last year, but we're talented and they're about the right stuff. So I pray about that daily because it is a very transactional world that we live in. But you can see, and I use Indiana football for example, when you have a cohesive unit that buy in and have culture, man, you can do some special things. And to this point, this group has done that.
Coach, you mentioned how last year wasn't what you guys are used to in the regular season, but having the guys who experience that and then experience the highs at the end, like your young guys, Braden, Byrd, Austin, Irby, how valuable is it to have them go through that and then return as kind of your young leaders this year?
Well, when you go through the suck like we did last year, man, it made that last 2 weeks so special, and those guys got to feel it. And if you couldn't see it on TV or where you were when we were playing, you could feel it in the dugout. You could feel the synergy and a group of guys that became connected, and all they cared about was winning. So very, very important for our young guys, especially to go through a struggling regular season and then pull it together at the end. They know what it looks like now, which is important, and they have really poured into the incoming guys. And, hey, man, this is the standards that we need to stick by, and we can't cut corners. We can't do this, and we got to make sure that the talk that's going on in the locker room is cohesive with what the leadership group and our staff wants.
Coach, we kind of touched on it with the portal. I know, guys have always had to choose between the draft and staying here another year, but in this era where guys have had opportunities to go to other schools, go other places, and want to stay for you and stay and play at this university, does it mean that much more when guys like Irby, Norby, people who could go elsewhere stay here and want to be here?
Yeah, one of the coolest text messages I've ever got as a head coach, and hope Donnie Wallace doesn't get upset that I'm sharing this information, but that's Colby's dad. Has never texted me before. When the season was over, he said, "Coach, Donnie Wallace here. Colby was a Pirate before I even knew he was a Pirate, and I know you're going to take care of him, but even if you don't give him another cent, he's not leaving." And when you got people like that in your locker room, I'm getting chill bumps. That keeps me in coaching, because if it comes where we can't have culture, then I'm not going to coach college baseball anymore, because I believe in people. I believe in relationships. Right now we have 3 big leaguers living in Greenville, North Carolina, because they believe in this place. And then you got Zach Agnos staying with Jake. And then you got all of our pro guys, Carter Cunningham, Josh Groves around here. How cool is it for our players to see them playing catch? Even Shinkman's been back some. So that is the stuff, when you talk about culture and having a legacy, that's the stuff that's the most important thing to me.
Coach, you're one of those guys that returned. Braden Byrd, a huge freshman year, obviously. Where for you can you see him take a step this year? Where are you looking for him to continue to improve?
Well, I think the biggest thing, Braden, he struggled with this a little bit in the fall, but giving him a really, really big leadership role. And he really did that last year at the end of the season, but he probably didn't really know what he was doing. He's just a competitor, and he just is a winner. There's certain people that you come across in your life that just know how to win, and he's one of those. But to actually bring other guys along with him, he was learning how to do that in the fall, and didn't play it his best at times because he had more responsibility. But he's done a great job in the preseason, and our leadership group has helped him with that as well. So for me, look, it ain't even about him hitting 400. It's about him being a leader on our team, and just the winning competitiveness that he has in his body to transform that into our entire team. If we do that, then we're going to be in good shape.
Coach, can you talk about the offseason work you guys have put in? Have you done anything else? Have you done anything different as a program? And also, who has stepped up as leaders during the offseason?
We're always looking in the mirror and being honest with ourselves, what we need to maybe adjust. I think with this new group, they really enjoyed coming out to the field, so it wasn't like we were having to encourage them or coach them harder. Last year in the fall, at times, you felt like the guys just didn't show up and were ready to work and get better. This group has done that to this point. A lot of leaders. Jack Herron has stepped up. We mentioned Boucher, Burris, Irby, Norby, Joe Webb, who is a transfer, Thomas Paxton is a transfer, Ryan Towers, Brendan Tolick, Colby Wallace. I think I hit them all, but those are the guys that are in our leadership group. And it's been fun to even watch a guy like Joe Webb, who has been to several different colleges, but he's a North Carolina guy. He is built like, I say burly from his competitiveness, not necessarily from a stature standpoint. He just wants to win. We've never had a guy here who will call his own game from the pitch comm, and Coach Knight trusts him with that, and he knows exactly what he needs to do and how he's trying to attack hitters, and he wants to take ECU baseball to heights it's never been before. I talked to Danny Bill yesterday. I said, Joe Webb's Danny Bill on steroids, so if that gives you any idea what kind of pitcher he is. So not technically on steroids for all the media people, so yeah. I know some of Clip probably take that and run with it, so Clip, don't do that.
Coach, I want to talk about player development. You're very good at that. Along with this program, you have guys at the next level of Major League Baseball. How big is that for recruiting, knowing guys that, hey, if I come to East Carolina, I really truly have a shot to go to Major League Baseball if they put the work in?
Yeah, I say this a lot, but, Coach Palumbo has been with me since day one, and Coach Knight, I'm getting so old now, I don't even know how many years, but several years he's been with us, and then you add Coach Gotro in that mix, and Pack and Agnos and Franny being back. But, the proof's in the pudding, and I take very minimal credit in that. It's those guys that are working with those guys. I feel like I was a very small piece in Treya Savage's development at East Carolina. I feel like Coach Knight was a big piece. Obviously, us getting him here, Coach Palumbo, having the right connections, all that's important. And, for me, I'm just trying to keep him between the rails, so to speak, and, talk to him about culture and relationships and how much this place means to me. And, Trey was really the first guy, when you think about it, that chose to stay here. He's on Team USA in 23, and the year before I was on Team USA with Paul Skeens when he was in the portal. So you can imagine the conversations that are happening at lunches and dinners between players from other schools trying to get Paul Skeens. Well, they were happening with Treya Savage, and he never flinched, and he bet on himself, and he signed for over $4 million, and then he's pitching in the World Series. Oh, my goodness. And you talk about an experience for me personally to be able to go to Game 6 in Toronto of the ALCS and then Game 1 of the World Series, and then, watch Trey in Dodger Stadium strike out 11 on national television. The proof's in the pudding. If you come put in the work, man, our guys are going to our coaches are going to get you where you need to be.
Just wanted to hit on Ethan Norby and what you think that his progression is going to be this year after the year that he had last year in the summer. Continue to say we think his progression is going to be for the team this year.
Well, I think it's similar to Trey. Trey in 23 was the first time he'd ever been the Friday night starter and having to learn how to physically and mentally handle that position. I don't think a lot of people understand the workload you take on when you're the Friday night starter. You're getting everybody else's ace. Everybody's preparing for you at the highest level. Trey had some arm soreness in 23, as Norby did some this past year. I think understanding what it takes for himself, which his processes, Norby's processes are different than what Trey had to do from body care, from mental game, all that stuff. But I just think he's more prepared to be in those roles and to take on a bigger workload this year than he even took on last year.
Coach, position battle-wise, I know you're always looking for that competition, but where do you feel like the most competition is happening right now across the infield outfield?
I say, hey, man, you show up to practice, it's happening everywhere. We're built this year to be able to handle some injuries, unlike we were last year. But I can tell you, third base, Colby Wallace, obviously one of the best defensive third basemen I've ever coached, but Colby could also play shortstop. He's going to pitch some. Irby played a lot of third base in the fall and actually played a better defensive third base than probably what any of us thought, and that's to his credit. He worked his tail off with Coach Palumbo. Burris could play anywhere on the field. You might even see him catch, who knows. So he's trying to get me to let him play all 9 positions before he leaves here at some point in time, so that'll be interesting. Shortstop, you got got Matt Lashley, a junior college transfer. He's battling a little of a hamstring issue right now, but man, he's a energy spark plug, loves to play the game, is a great defensive player, and he got a lot better offensively. Carlos Hakame, who played second base last year for South Florida, he could play short, he could play second. Burris could play second. Braxton Trammell can play really all three of those. He's being sidelined a little bit with a little nagging injury right now, but he has played well to this point. First base, Boucher, Irby. Catching, you've got Walker Barron back, you got Michael Kalinich, and then you got a transfer of Blake Carver. The outfield is super, super competitive. Of course, you've got Jack Herron back, who is a leader and is going to play in the outfield, most likely right field. Alex Peltier has probably been the most improved from the fall to right now with his swing and just his offensive production. And, man, he shows up and practices tail off every single day. Grady Linehan, a freshman. You could see AP or Grady in center field or any three of the outfield positions. He had a great fall for us, super talented, but also he's about the right things, works his tail off every single day, and really, to be a freshman, just mature beyond his years. Jeff Sabater, a transfer, left-handed hitter, Lane Hoover-ish, but faster. He can really, really run, can really handle the bat. Not a big dude, but, man, he can put a lot of pressure on the defense. And then Jack Vogley, junior college transfer, he's got as much power as probably we've had in the outfield in a while. So you can see any of those guys out there. You can see Burris out there. I'm probably missing some guys, but you can see that we're pretty deep, which is a good thing because you're always going to have injuries. And I told the team last week that we're not going to be derailed by injuries this year. So we're deeper. And Coach Palumbo and Coach Knight did a great job getting us some depth on our team this year.
You had Coach Gertrude. Just how was it bringing him in, and what does he add to this coaching staff?
You know, you talk about, college athletics being transactional, and Goat and I have known each other for about 15 years. He was an assistant coach at Tulane when Coach Palumbo and I were assistants at UCF, and I made the joke with him, if you still like me when I was an assistant coach at UCF, because I was pretty crazy back then, which I still think you guys think I'm crazy, which is a good thing. But you can imagine competing against me, but we just struck up a relationship on the road recruiting, and we just stayed connected. And when I saw what was happening at Mississippi State, I just reached out to him and got him and his wife to come down and spent some time with them. And you can imagine being in the situation he was in and going through a coaching change. And he just loves coaching baseball, and he's a relationship person, and you can just see the connection our position players have with him. And it's sometimes not all about what you know, but how connected they feel to you as a coach. And that's the thing that I have really enjoyed, just watching him pour into our guys.
Coach Towers and told with the injury bug last year, just how's their progression been? Do you have a real timeline for them?
Ryan Towers got through his protocol for his rehab throwing wise, I guess, 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, he's really cleared. So, most likely he will be in a starting role. How does that look? We'll see. We still got 3 weeks before we open up. And Tolik, we got past the hip finally, which was a bear. I mean, you're talking about a guy that went through 2 surgeries, and he's got a little lat issue going on right now, but he did pitch last weekend competitively and looked great. But he is going to be healthy at some point in time this year. We're hoping to have him opening weekend for maybe some bullpen innings, but we'll see how that goes. We're not going to push him too fast because he's super special and super talented, and we want to make sure we have him at the end of the season, not at the beginning of the season.
You mentioned Ryan Tower, or sorry, that was the other question. But catching-wise, you have Walker, Kalinich back, and then Blake Carver. How does he fit into that? And what have you seen from the 2 returning guys from where they were last year?
Michael had a really good fall, and Walker had some ups and downs, and we've talked about that. Walker has been great since we've been back, and look, you got to have more than one catcher. So I hope they all get opportunities to play, but I don't write the lineup; they write the lineup. So we're going to put the best 9 guys on the field, and how that looks. I mean, it gives us some confidence that Walker has done it, but you're always a foul tip away from having to put the next guy in there. So we need all 3 of those guys to be able to catch innings.
Coach, I know you got, obviously, Norby is a starter you can count on, and obviously Sean Jenkins coming back. Who are some of the other guys, rotation-wise, that are kind of competing for those starting spots right now?
Well, I'm probably going to miss somebody because I think we have more guys that are able to start on this year's team than we've ever had before. So Ryan Towers and Tolick, Gavin Van Kempen, Frank Saccone, Sean Jenkins, Norby we mentioned, Nick Moran, AK, did I miss anybody? Colby Weber, yeah. Sorry, Colby. But there's that many guys that you have to go through your Rolodex in your head that could start. So that's a good problem to have. And then, of course, some of those guys will be high leverage guys in the bullpen.
Anybody else have questions?
Parker Byrd mentioned on his podcast this will be his last year of baseball. Just what has he meant to you in this program?
Man, it doesn't seem like it's been 4 years since his accident, and just the platform that he has. And I'm more talking about his faith and the hope he gives people across the world. I've never been around a human being that has been through that kind of adversity and just shows up every day like he's one of our players. He does every single thing that every one of our players does, and then has a podcast and goes and speaks to churches and everything else across the state of North Carolina at different times. And, of course, I allow that because, man, that's just such a special thing that he can do. And he came to me and he said, hey, Coach, I want this to be my last year. And he's going to go to San Diego State, I think, to grad school for the next 2 years after this year and train for the Paralympics. So how cool that be. I was like, hey, man, you're just going to continue to increase your platform to spread the gospel. So it's awesome. And he's been an inspiration to me as he has to our staff and our players as well.
Coach, just skill set wise or mentality, what has stood out to you the most about this entire 2026 roster?
The biggest thing for me is we're deeper, we're talented. We did utilize the portal, but they're good humans, man. They do it the right way, and they like one another, and it's just been a much more fun group for the coaches to be around every day. And like I said, that's not a knock against somebody, but it's just when guys are having a good time and we're working hard, it makes it just more special to go out there in this day and age that we're in. So what I've said to a lot of people that ask, how good are you guys going to be, is that we have a core group that when stuff hits the fan and something goes wrong, they're going to get us back on track. And they know how to do that because they were on last year's team, at least the core group was. So that gives me a lot of hope. And, sitting here last year at this time, I didn't think we were going to have the season that we had, in the regular season. But I don't have the crystal ball, but I know this, that there's probably some doubters out there and probably, people throw me in the Dabo Swinney mold and, hey, Coach, you can't do it because you're trying to have culture. Well, I've had a lot of guys bet against me in their career, and most of the time they lose. As Clip said, he didn't bet against that we weren't going to win the conference tournament last year, which I told him I appreciated. So, but we're just excited to show up every day, and the big thing for us is be present and not try to be perfect. And if we do that, I think we're going to end up where we want to be at the end of the season.